Have you ever wondered what the FBI thinks a serial killer is? Today, we go into the FBI website and find out what a serial killer is to them.
Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on. We thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Thank you very much for coming in and listening to me again. If you're a repeating customer type deal. Now, what we're gonna do is I got a weird weekend this weekend, so I'm pretty much covering this like way earlier than I usually do. I just got done with the nerd sports episode. So yes, we are gonna go on the FBI .gov, and you can look at this yourself if you want to come along with us on this journey. But they talk about serial murderers. The reason why I was gonna do the one about Austin, who just recently, I think it was like 100. Let me go. Like I am always, I am very unprepared. So, because Austin had a new serial killer, which first known serial killer in 138 years. But it's still in basic court case and everything like that. He supposedly killed 2 that they know of and 12 more that he's suspected of. So more about that case later on. We'll get around to that as soon as it's done processing. We do that every once in a while where, we kind of just see someone on the news and whatnot. We'll cover them real quick. This is one of those ones I was just like, I don't want to phone this in, but we'll go ahead and get this done. I had to pick up my daughter this weekend. That's the whole reason why I am doing it this way. I had a couple of killers that I was going over, but I really wanted to get their assassination. I think that's French. Yeah, I probably fucked that up really bad. But we are going in and pretty much just we're gonna talk about they have this I guess it's the thing is called serial murder. It's a view printable version PDF. Serial murder disciplinary prospects for investigators. Behavior analysis, National Center for Analysis of Violent Crimes. They have a couple of editors, co-editors. It looks like it was actually professionally done by a couple of units. Also, the Bureau of Tobacco and pure of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. I thought it was just ATF. But they have a message for. I'm not going to go over the message director, the acknowledgments, the forward, all that stuff. We are going to go the definition of the serial mother and casuals. We're going to do it a little bit briefly. Definition of a serial murderer in the past 30 years. Multiple definitions of serial murderers or serial killers. We'll just call it serial killers or serial murderers so I can get through this. Have been used by law enforcement, academia, and researchers in clinications. Man, they have weird words on here. Let me see if Stephen Hawking could wake him up real quick. And
Clinicians.
That's a weird word. While these definitions do share several common themes, they differ in specific requirements, such as the number of murders involved and the type of motivations and temporal aspects of the murders. To address these discrepancies, attendees at the serial murder symposiums examine the variations in order to develop a single definition for a serial murderer. Most definitions require a period of time between the murderers. A break in time was necessary to disguise between the mass murderer and the serial murderer. Murder requires a temporal separations between the different murders, temporal being time. They use big words in this. You know, I know I'm going to do this, and I'm veering off a little bit, but we'll get back in track in a little bit. But I hate to say this, a lot of people, even as a doing journalism and everything for like, a semester, using big words is a big no-no in any kind of thing. The reason why is because most of the people that are actually going to read your article, read your stuff, is lower intelligent. And even in something like this, you don't want to use big words, only because, I mean, you could be like a super physical professor, but you don't know certain words. You could be, what I'm trying to say is you could be very intelligent, but the problem with using big words is a lot of people don't understand or know what they are reading. They have to look it up. You don't want to get rid of your audience that way. But I read a lot, so temporal is time. Temporal separations put the difference in the murderers. Let's get back on here. Which was described as separate occasions, cooling off period, or emotional cooling off period. What they're trying to say on this one. And this is just not opinion. This is just what I'm reading. So, like I said, most of my audience don't understand this. But if you do, leave a comment. You understand and you like what you're hearing. If not, leave a bad one. And if you're the vampire Dusseldorf, I've been practicing my vampire hunting skills. I'm coming for you. Just a joke. Anyways, basically what they're saying is this, sometimes the serial killer takes a little bit of time between kills. What I've been reading about some of the serial killers and everything is the basic fact of they get the rocks off. We'll just say it that way. They get the rocks off, or they I'm trying to think of a word that's not big, so I don't pretty much go and get to what I'm actually saying. Or what I was actually describing. You want to use small words. They get their rocks off early. We'll just say that. They get their rocks off, and then they cool down. They're like, yeah. I mean, there's some of the killers that actually they murdered the person, and then they practiced necrophilia, and they were done. They got their jollies off. Several of the killers that I've already went over, that's how that's how they get their sexuality rocks off. That's how they get the rocks off. But generally, mass murders describes as the number of murderers, 4 or more, occurring during the same instance. What they're trying to describe on this is basically if like a lot of people are the school shootings, which they're highly publicized, which they're not publicizing a lot of the mass shootings that happen in like Chicago on a very almost daily basis. If you actually look at the map of shootings in Chicago, and the article I was reading was the shootings in Chicago versus the shootings by police, and you have almost the entire Chicago area in red of the shootings there, and you have like splatters of police shootings there. Basically what they're saying is if you go into like it was like I had one here in Wichita Falls. I was at Hastings at the time. Guy with a shotgun was shooting up the place. Luckily there wasn't that many casualties at that place, but he went it over to the at the time was called Toby's. Went over there and shot the uh security guard and a bunch of other people there, and then rode off. That he didn't take time away from the killings. He went in and he was just keep on going, going to do this, going to do it this way. That's basically what they're talking about. The mass shooting or a mass murderer, as this article wants to say, is basically what they're doing is they are killing no matter what. Like Hitler couldn't be. I mean, I want to cover Hitler, but I have to find a way to actually. We're just going to cover Hitler and not the war, because if you cover the war, there's a lot of people that cover World War II just as a side gig for a podcast, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. Like my podcast, I wouldn't say it's the greatest in the world. I've heard the greatest in the world, but we're going on that. But that was at least one attempt to formalize the definition of serial murder through legalization. In 1998, a federal law was passed by United States Congress titled "The Protection of Children from Sexual Predators Act of 1998." which the law includes the definition of serial killer. The term serial killering, that's how it's actually pronounced. How can you be smart and so stupid at the same time? I don't know if that's actually right. It could be, they apparently went to college for that. The term serial killering, killings, okay, serial killings, means a series of 3 or more killings, not less than one of which was committed within the United States, having common characteristics such as to suggest he's responsible, possibly that the crimes were committed by the same actor or actors, same killer, I guess. Although the federal law provided a definition of serial murder, it is limited in its application. The purpose of the definition was to set forth criteria establishing when the FBI could assist local law enforcement agencies with their investigation of serial murder cases. It was not intended to be a general definition for serial murders. The synopsis intended reviews previous definitions and the extension discussion, the pros and cons, and numerous variations. The consensus of this, it's just about the symposium. Sorry, I get I get on a roll. I keep on going, but The different definition groups of symposium agree on a number of similar factors to be included in the definition. These include one or more offenders, two or more murder victims. Incidents should be occurring in separate events at separate times. The time period between murder, separate serial murder from mass murder, and combining the various ideas, but forth at the symposium, the following definition was crafted. I think, man, this is just really, I should have paid for this. Serial mothers, because it has some it's very wordy. And that's a word. Yes, very wordy. Serial murder is the unlawful killing of two or more victims by the same offender in separate events. I guess what they're trying to get at is if, say, I murder a couple, uh, and then the next week I kill another couple, and then month or 2 years down the road, I kill another couple or another person. I would be considered serial killer. But if I go up to a hotel and going floor to floor to floor to floor and just start opening doors and killing people, I would be a mass murderer at that point. But if I take my time and wait a little while to let a lot of serial killers, they'll kill and take in the moment, and they'll revisit the body they just killed, which happens a lot. But let's go on. Following the arrest of a serial killer, the question is always asked, how did this person become a serial murderer? The answer lies in the development of individual from birth to adulthood. Specifically, the behavior a person displays in influenced by life experience as well as certain biological factors. Serial murderers like all human beings, are a product of their heredity, their upbringing, and the choices that they make through the development. Casually, as it relates to the development of serial murderers, was discussed in length about the symposium by the attendees. Uh, what? Well, I'm sure they'll go in more depth. I'm just going to make this a little bit quicker. What they're probably describing is the basic fact of, I'm trying to think. The three, most psychologists, the three events that I don't know if they still do it, and we'll probably figure out this whole thing together. But the three, what Andrea from Up All Night, Up Late from Night Shift podcast, what she was trying to describe was the threes, the bedwetting, the mutilation of animals, and then what was the third one? I think the third one's how they describe their name. Most serial killers have more than two names when they're actually in the public eye. I guess it's just the documentation. But there's a third one. Oh, abusive family. Sorry. Abusive family, mutilation of animals, and bedwetting. Those are the three trifecta of a serial killer. And most serial killers do have their mom's a prostitute, and so they go after women and prostitutes. They were hurt, or they have what do you call it? Dysfunctional sex life. There's a lot of factors that go in as we do research on these killers. That happens. I mean, the German ones, two out of three had sex with farm animals. So it's Uh, it's weird. Uh, Actually can be defined as a complex process based on biological, social, societal, and environmental factors. In addition, these factors, we'll see three factors. Individuals have the ability to choose to engage in certain behaviors, which I've always said in our goings on these killers and everything like that. They have the ability to stop themselves, but they choose not to. Uh, Choose to engage in certain behaviors. These collective outcomes of all these influences separates individual behaviors from genetic human behavior, since it is not possible to identify all of the factors that influence normal human behavior. It is similar. Is not possible to identify all factors that influence an individual to become a serial murderer. Again, uh, in the comment I said earlier is I read that where the person is able to stop themselves. Uh, and if you come at me in the comments and say, no, these people were messed up in the begin with, uh, they stopped themselves from a very long time, and they had to uh, basically gain the confidence to start doing this. That's that. If you can say, "Hey, maybe this is not right and this is wrong. I shouldn't do this," constantly in your head. I mean, even the was it Ed Kemper? I think it was no, it was Ed. It was definitely Ed Kemper. Hold on. Let's see here. Ed Kemper. Okay, yeah, Ed Kemper. He literally said in one interview that if he just killed his mother, he wouldn't have been a serial killer. He would have gotten the compulsions right out of him. He should have started with her, but he didn't. And that's probably really horrible thing to say, but uh, killing one person is just none. It's just, you know, killing one person is still wrong. But if he had to actually kill his mother, there's a well, there's no possibility. A lot of the killings would have stopped. Period. And he even said, "It's like if I just killed my mother, I would not have killed more." So, uh, human beings are in a constant state of development from the movement of compulsion until death. Behavior affected by these stimulations received and processed the central nervous system. Neurobiologists believe that our nervous systems are environmentally sensitive, thereby allowing individuals' nervous systems to shape throughout their lifetime. Okay. Let's read what they're going. The development of social coping mechanisms begin early in life and continue to progress as children learning to enact, negotiate, adequate coping mechanisms results in violent behavior. Neglect and abuse in childhood have been shown to contribute to an increased risk of future violence. Substance abuse can and does lead to increased aggression and violence. There are documented cases of people who suffer severe head injuries and normally become violent even when there was no prior history of violence. And yes, that was another thing that we went over too with Andrea. I think BC me and said something about it. But like two comedians, Roseanne Barr and Sam Kinison. They both had accidents where they had brain injuries. Roseanne Barr was a little bit worse than Sam Kinison, I believe. I'm not really sure about that. I think Sam Kinison just had a concussion, but Roseanne, she literally was grade A student, high intelligent, and then she got hit by a vehicle and she had to relearn all the stuff that she had forgotten. And she has like violent outbursts and stuff like that. And so does I think Sam Kinison did too. Of course, he also had substance abuse problem too. But he was a preacher. And then he had an accident when he was I guess it evolved. At one point he was a preacher, and then he became a comedian. But his brother even states in an interview, I think it was in his biopic, that Sam was not the same after his head injury, and a lot of people aren't. Supposed attendees agreed that there is no single identifiable I defend Stephen Hawkins. Help me out. I'm getting tired of that. Yeah.
Identifiable.
I had to figure out what the hell that was and how to pronounce it. Identifiable cause or factor that leads to the development of a serial killer. Rather, there are a multitude of factors that contribute to their development. And the most significant factor is the serial killer's personal decision to choose to pursue their crimes. There are several additional observations made by the attendees regarding casual predisposition to, how can I say that word? I can't say that. Can't even say the fucking word that I was trying to figure out. Predisposition to serial killing, much like other violent offenses, is biological, social, and psychological in nature, and is not limited to any specific characteristic or trait. The development of a serial killer involves a combination of these factors, which exist together in a rare confusant in certain individuals. Confluence. I think it's confluence.
Confluence.
Yeah, confluence in certain individuals. They have the appropriate biological predisposition and mold by their psychological makeup, which presents a critical time in their social development. There are no specific combinations of traits or characteristics shown in differentiating serial killers from other violent offenders. There is no generic template for a serial killer. Serial killers are driven by their own unique motives and reasons. Serial killers are not limited to any specific demographic group, such as their sex, age, race, or religion. The majority of serial killers are sexually motivated. Erodes violence during development. For them, violence and sexuality sexual gratifications are entwined in their psyche, which I tried to describe earlier. More research is needed to identify pathways in development that produces serial killers. I think they did a brain scan of a serial killer, and they forget what it was exactly. Let me see here. Yeah, there we go. How brains of murderers look different, and this is coming from the University of Chicago. Scientists study the brains of more than 100 prisoners. Here's what they found: brain scans of incarcerated men reveal reduced gray matter in homicidal offenders. Gray matter, reduced gray matter. Yeah, I should have did a little bit more research on this, but that's how. Gray matter is a type of tissue in your brain and spinal cords, central nervous system, that plays a crucial role in allowing you to function normal day to day. I guess I didn't have that much. And from what this photo is I guess it could be, if I'm looking at this right. Okay, there's gray matter and there's white matter. from looking at this photo. The gray matter is like I'm guessing like a cushion around the white matter. That's what it's looking like to me. I could be totally wrong. I'm not a doctor or a neurosurgeon or neuro. I didn't study brain stuff. We'll just go with that. But apparently they don't. They might have a more thin layer, which I guess that thin layer produces stuff to where it could stop compulsions to do harmful stuff and more empathy on people. So there is that. Okay. Psychopathy and serial murders. Attendees at this serial killer symposium agreed that there is no generic profile of a serial killer. Serial killers differ in many ways, including motivation for killing. Yes, we know this. However, attendees did identify certain traits that common in some serial murderers, including sensation and seeking, and lack of remorse or guilt, impulsive, the need for control or predatory behavior. A a lot of killers that going into this and learning about serial killers, a lot of them try to describe this of they pretty much their motivations are themselves. We can't really. They would have to tell us what their motivation is, but most of the time it's the control factor. A lot of like the toy box killer and the BTK killer. They pretty much torture their victims. They wanted that control factor, which what's really sad is deep diving in their lives is they had a pretty good life, but they ended up, doing this on the side. Well, the toy box killer was a fucking crackpot, but BTK killer, on the other hand, he pretty much did it as a compulsion for his sexual desires. So he wanted to inflict harm on others, and sometimes he wanted people to inflict harm on him. There's a way of going around it, because I'm not going to kink shame on this. A lot of people that are have they like to be physically abused. I'll say it that way. Physically abused. To They want to be physical abused and have satisfaction in their sexual arena. We'll do it that way. I'm trying to be freaking cleaner, but if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Psychopathic is a personal disorder manifest in people that have a mixture of charm, manipulation, intimidation, and occasionally violence to control others in order to satisfy their own selfish needs. Although the concept of a psychopath has been known for centuries, Dr. Robert Hare led a modern research effort to develop a series of assessment tools to evaluate the personal traits and behaviors of the attributes of a psychopath. Dr. Hare and his associates developed a psychopath checklist revised, and its difference with which provides a clinical assessment of the degree of psychopath and individual processes. These instruments measures the discrete cluster of personal traits and social deviant behaviors of the individual, which fall into four factors: interpersonal, affectant, lifestyle, and antisocial. The interpersonal traits includes superficial charm. I'm trying to get Gilbertness.
Glibness.
Glibness. What the fuck is glibness? That I'll look up the words to help you guys out. There's a I just want to know the definition of the quality. Okay, glibness is a noun, and the quality of being easily fluent, especially in ways that is tough and superficial or insincere. There is a certain glibness that comes with trying to package big, complex ideas and distill them into very cumbersome chunks. Or I could just go with the D&D term. I'm actually I'm that's not helping. Okay. Um, Gibbleness makes everything you say appear to be truthful. Okay, they can lie really good. God damn it, that was a horrible. Yeah, I cussed. Fuck it. Gibbleness is how you can lie to people. Fucking hell. Uh, superficial charm, and I had to look at fucking D&D shit just to figure out that fucking word. That's how unreliable some definitions are. You have to nerd it down to me. Uh, a ground loose sense of self-worth, pathological lying and manipulation of others, a feeling of trait including a lack of remorse or guilt, swallowing of effect, and a lack of empathy, and the failure to accept responsibility. The lifestyle behaviors, including stipulation, seek behavior, impulsiveness, irresponsibility, uh, parasitic orientation, lack of realistic life goals. Huh. Yeah, a couple of those I have. uh, the lack of realistic life goals, but I actually have realistic life goals. I wish, but everybody has that. I wish I had this in my life, or if I had the money, I would. Sometimes people lie to themselves, and sometimes they just like work to make that lie true. Anyways, because I know a lot of people like that too. But anyways, the antisocial behavior includes poor behavioral controls, early childhood behavior problems, juvenile delinquency, revelation of conditional release, and criminal variation, versatility. Criminal versatility. The combination of these individuals' personal traits, interpersonal styles, and societal deviant styles are the framework of psychopaths and can manifest themselves definitely in individual psychopaths, and go into other stuff. That's just a definition of psychopath. So they really didn't do a definition of a psychopath, which psychopath, if I remember correctly, they have to mimic their emotions. They have no emotions at all. They're incapable of making emotional calls, and a lot of the times uh, they have to mimic it. Over the past 20 years, law enforcement and experts from a number of varied disciplines have attempted to identify specific motivations of serial murderers and to apply those motivations to different typology. That's how it's pronounced. Developed for classifying serial murders. These range from simple, definite models to complex, multiple categories, theologies that are laden with inclusion requirements. Most theologies are too cumbersome to utilize by law enforcement during an active serial murder investigation, and they may not be helpful in identifying an offender. Um, and in the symposium, they discussed the issues surrounding motivation and the use of typology to categorize. What is typology? They probably said it, what the definition is, but they're using a lot of big words that I don't know. So I'm trying to figure it out. This definition, classification according to general type, especially archaeological, psychological, or social science. The time period of the Saxon. Oh, God damn it! That's a fucking. That was another big word that it could use something different. Typologies. To categorize various types of serial murders of different motivations and the investigate. I'm depressed now that I couldn't. They're speaking in high terms. That's how bad it is. Investigation of a crime and a standard procedure for law enforcement, typically motivation, provides police with the means to narrow the possible suspect pool. The same logical steps are taken when investigating homicide cases, as most homicides are committed by someone that the victim knows. Police focus on the relationship closest to the victim. This is a successful strategy for most murder investigations. The majority of the serial murders, however, are not acquainted with or involve the conscious relationship with their victims. What they're trying to get at on that one, yes, a lot of the victims know they're killers in a way. Like now, there are people out there that just go out and just start killing. This is what the serial killer is. That's the reason why serial killers are hard to identify and find, because they don't even know their victim. Most of the time, they haven't even been seen around their victim. So they can't really put in a definition of, or put in a definition of find out they're killers, because the killers isn't in their the victim's circle, which happens. It happens a lot. Like you heard it. It's hard to find a bad robbery case, because most of the time the robber doesn't even know the victim. Now, if you're going into dramatization of what you call it, movies and TV, most of the time the robbery was a cause to hide the true murderer's identity. They basically make it look like a robbery gone wrong, so they just look at it and they say, "Oh, robbery gone wrong. We're probably never gonna find this guy. We'll still investigate, take fingerprints and everything like that." But in all reality, most of the time the killer, and some of them is just accident murders, but the serial killers, on the other hand, they are more or less going after their type. Once they figure out their type, and that's sometimes they kill prostitutes. They go around. They try stings with prostitutes. I mean, what was it? The Ozarka. I just did him like 2 weekends ago. His MO was killing women and prostitutes that were on the train. One, it was a murder of convenience, and two, it was pretty much he also just killed prostitutes. And a lot of they'll kill prostitutes because they don't think that the prostitutes are trying to say the nicest way you could possibly say this, but most people don't think prostitutes are, human beings. And which is sad. They're still human beings. I'm not going for prostitution or against prostitution. I'm just saying a human being is a human being. Serial murderers' crime scenes can have bizarre features that may cloud the identification of a motive. The behavior of serial murder at a crime scene may involve throughout the series of crimes and manifest different indications between the offender and the victim. It is also extremely difficult to identify a single motivation when there is more than one offender involved in the series, like the Reaper crew. which was still disgusting. But thank you, Toby, for that one. The attendees and symposium made the following observation. Motives generally have. Uh, sorry, I ate before I did this, and now it's coming up in gas. Motive generally may be difficult to determine the serial investigation. A serial murderer may have multiple motives for committing his crimes. A serial murderer motives may involve both within a single murderer as well throughout the murder series. The classification of motivation should be limited to observed behavior at the crime scene. Even if the motive can be identified, it is may not be helpful in identifying the serial murderer. Utilizing investigation resources discrete, the motive intended identifying the offender may derail the investigation. Investigations should not necessarily equate a serial murderer motivations with level of injury. Regarding the motives of mysterious murderers, commit their crimes because they want to. The expectation of this would be those few killers suffer from severe mental illness, and yes, some of them do suffer. Well, actually, all of them suffer from mental illness. It's just the degree of how they can hide in society and not. Ted Bundy did it very well for a while, and the only reason why he got caught is because he got a bad headlight. And he still had the body in the back end. He would have actually kept on killing if he didn't get pulled over that night. Anger is a motivation which an offender displays rage and hostility towards a certain subgroup, a population, or within society as a whole. Criminal enterprise is a motivation in which the offender benefits from in status and monetary compensation by committing murders that is drugs, gangs, or organized crime related. The Iceman. Who was he? There was one I think I went over that he ended up robbing people and then killing them. The Black Widow, crimes is Black Widow. What they call is women killing men to gain their welfare, or what do you call it? Just they marry them, and then they kill them and get all their property and valuables that way. The ideology is a motivation to commit murders in order to further their goals and ideas of a specific individual or group. Examples of these include terrorist groups or an individual who attacks a specific racial, gender, or ethnic group. Power or thrill is a motivation in which the offender feels empowered or is excited when the killing his victims, and also the disgrace of his victims too. How he physically mutilates them into humiliating them, I guess would be the word. Psychosis, I went too far. Psychosis in a situations in which the offender is suffering from a severe mental illness and is killing because of that illness. This may include authority or visual hallucinations or paranoia, grandioso or bizarre delusions. I mean, the Anthill Crew is probably your biggest bet. He ended up going wacko crazy and started mutilating, punishing his followers so they would stay with him. And he ended up killing a couple of people and killing a kid and mutilating a couple of their bodies. It's the same thing with cults. I mean, what was it? The Real Buffalo Bill. We went over them too. Same thing. An investigation issues and best practices. Attendees at this symposium identify successful investigation practices for solving serial murder cases. These factors can central to the decision. Identify and define identification of a serial murder series, leadership, task force organization, resource augmentation, communication, data management, and analytical tools, medical examiners and coroners, administrative issues. Oh, it's just program stuff. Now, I read over this, and it's also training and then officers associate programs. Reason why I say this, and the reason why I bring up the Austin killer, serial killer, is because one of my cop friends, or he works in the sheriff's department, and he told me about the serial killer in Austin. But the thing is I was reading the articles once he told me. He's like, no, it's a real serial killer. We looked at all the evidence and everything like that, and they're trying to get the FBI involved. Well, and this is so Hollywood that the police department and the sheriff's department both agreed that this wasn't a serial killer, and they didn't want the help of the FBI, which I don't know what goes on and the reason why you wouldn't want help from another division to see, take a out of place look and see if they can find anything. Sometimes you need an extra set of eyes on stuff. It's always the case. I do it up at work all the time. I think I see something. I go up, I talk to somebody else, and they tell me, it's like, no, it's not there. Okay. It's not that I have hallucinations. It's just sometimes the stuff that I worked on have a weird wave to it. And sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. But failing that, all the articles I was reading at the time that he told me this stuff, they went on the offensive and said that they don't have a serial killer. Well, they could have saved a couple of more people. And even Auschwitz, the Nazis, the propaganda machine at the time, stopped everything saying that they had a serial killer. But they didn't. So they let the killings happen, and we can do it ourselves type deal. Now this is just risk assessment stuff that they do. You can read about it. Let's see here if there's anything else on here. It's more or less trying to get everybody to work together. Okay, here we go. Forensic issues in murder serial killer cases. The forensic science have played a key role in criminal investigation for years. Recently, there has been increased attendance on forensic science by law enforcement, prosecutors, and general public, particularly in high-profile cases. Intent media coverage, conserve evidence issues, and the work of crime laboratories have served in to heighten this interest. Basically, CSI TV show. Everybody's now since that show. I've actually talked to some of the investigators since that show. There's some investigators who was like, "Oh, I got an idea. I saw it in this episode of CSI." So. I've actually talked to a CSI, and they did that in front of me while I was helping out some law enforcement, and I fucking flipped. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Your whole assessment's going off a fucking TV show." And they're like, "Yeah, don't fucking." And this is when I was working as a correctional officer. No, I'd never been technically, correctional officer is a type of law enforcement, but I know I'm not a law enforcement personnel. But it was just funny that this guy was like, I see this on CSI. You got to do X, Y, Z. I was like, dude, he literally I seen him bash the coffee pot into his head. Well, the evidence said, I was like, dude, he just wants to move from this cell. He doesn't want to be with this cellie. How do you know that? Because he fucking told me. And I told him, it's like, hey, listen, I got to do a count, but don't make it too bad to where I had to throw up. I knew it was going to happen. Could I have done anything? I'm like, no. If I can't do anything, I'll let them know. It's like, I can't do anything, but if you're willing to take a couple of, take a cut a little bit, I'll see what I can do. It's nothing against me. Certain things you can't, like switching an inmate because they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. You can do that. But they literally told me, and I told them, I was like, do you feel unsafe? No, I don't feel unsafe. I was like, you're not getting at what I'm trying to say. If you feel unsafe, I have to move you. But I don't feel unsafe. I was like, okay. And I walked on. And then there was a pot bashed into one of the inmates' head. And he had a little cut on his face. Then they figured it out. Okay. Anyways, the field of forensics, DNA. I didn't know that was the actual word. I knew it was something acid. I just didn't know what it was. Stephen Hawking, something else.
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
I'm not going to repeat that. I'm just going to say DNA. But now you know the word for DNA. Because I can pronounce acid. I'm that good. Analyzed in legislation to allow DNA testing on a broad number of offenders has made some of the more remarkable advances in DNA testing now allow much smaller samples of biological material to be analyzed and the result to be more discriminalizing. Yeah, since DNA evidence, there's a lot of cases that go through and they prosecute the victim or not prosecute the victim, the murderer, because they found like DNA and underneath their fingernails. But in all reality, a lot of this stuff, just because you have DNA evidence doesn't mean, because she could have scratched a guy going down the road. She smacked a guy, got DNA underneath his tips, under her fingertips or his fingertips or whoever's fingertips. DNA got in underneath there because the victim slapped somebody. They go in, they talk to the guy who's like, hey, we have your DNA on file. We we found out that it was underneath the fingernails. We obviously see a scratch. We think you did it. Well, I was at such and such. I have this. And there's video evidence. Nowadays, because of CCTV, it's a lot easier to verify where a person is. Yes, it is a violation of personal space, and I'll always keep that in mind. But sometimes you have good benefits and sometimes you have bad benefits. Yes, I read 1984, which having a person being videotaped constantly, which technically we are now. It's sad how much freedom we give up for security, but changing times. I'm not going to go against it. I'm just saying my thoughts and opinion on video surveillance. But it's a good thing that I see the cons and I see the pros and the cons on this on CCTV and videotaping everything. You find if a person is innocent or not, because he was at a certain location and they caught him on the ATM at XYZ time frame. So, but still DNA evidence can help you out, close up the gap in suspects. If you don't have an alibi and everything, you're kind of screwed. But not going against any kind of innocence or anything. But it's basically talking about forensic evidence, media issues. This is another thing I wanted to address on this. Serial murder cases are inherently newsworthy. Some investigations last for years. Many attract attention because of their type of victims involved, and in other, the serial killers themselves are media attractive. Media attraction is an exhibition by the insatiable demands of 24-hour news day. The consist news attention on investigation inevitably results in conflict and with law enforcement. Yes. The biggest one, oh God, what was that? There was one case that the guy ended up suing the news. Well, there's a couple of sues because of the news. But but it was a good movie. Of course, I also had the guy that plays serial killer in Black Mirror. No, it wasn't Black Mirror. Blackbird, I think it was. Something to that extent. Let's see here. I know he directed it. Wow, okay. No, those are movies that he does. There we go. Richard Jewell. I don't know if we've actually gone over him yet, but Richard Jewell, God, where are you? What? Oh, he was on credit. He did fucking man. That man is everywhere. He apparently he was a producer, or he was an actor uncredited in Casper. No. Okay, there we go. He produced a lot of movies. But Richard Jewell, which the guy that played him was also in, oh man, Paul Walter Holzer, which is kind of funny because if you look at this guy, he was in what was it? Blackbird. Yeah, that was the TV series Blackbird, where he's a serial killer, and he looks almost dead ringer as the guy. He also played Stingray in Cobra Kai, which is kind of funny. But he's played some weird roles. But sorry, media on this. They basically accused Richard Jewell of he was a America's security guard and he looks dead ringer for the actual actor that played him, or he looks exact. They picked the right person, Paul Walter Holzer, to play this guy. He's a dead ringer for the guy, but this guy, Richard Jewell, saved a bunch of people at, I believe, the 96 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, after he did this, someone in the media pointed the fingers to him that he was. It's basically some of the stuff is the hero turned to a villain because he alerted the police and police department about the bomb. They suspected. What's sad is whenever you're in a case, they suspect everybody that's around that, just in case. They ask questions. They make sure that the person that found it doesn't have a hero complex. He wanted to be a hero so bad that he caused a problem to actually uh, made him out to be a hero. Now he was investigated. He was charged, but he was turned innocent. The big factor of and I'm getting to it eventually. The big factor of what happened and made him turn him to a villain was actually the media. Actually, I did go over this guy because it was the Atlanta uh, bureau that went over him. Or Atlanta, goddamn, can't remember the newspaper. It was some Atlanta newspaper. One of the, and he sued eventually and got his money. But many can stop the mess up the investigation sometimes. But we'll go into what the FBI thinks. Often the relationship between law enforcement and media is not a close one. In some law enforcement agencies, there is a long history of distrust and resentment underpinned these relationships from the law enforcement perspective. The media published unauthorized information from the investigation, hypothesis, and investigation processes, like Richard Jules. And used talking heads to critique the investigation efforts. Basically, they give them their opinions. That's what the talking head is, I believe. They wanted to use a big word that they use a lot, and no one else uses it. They use opinions. Apparently, it was a rock band. Definition. Here we go. Reporter W who addresses a camera and views in close up party elected broadcasting system. Oh, what the fuck? It's an opinion. The definition is an opinion. We're just gonna go with that. Talking head is the camera's faced up. If I look deadly into the camera and show everybody, if you're actually looking this on YouTube or if you're just listening, I'm looking dead into the camera. And this is my opinion on this whole finasco. But that's called talking head. I figured as much. I just didn't know it is a broader term for that. From the media standpoint, law enforcement withholds too much information and does not communicate adequately with the media, which I hate to tell you this right now. There's a reason why a lot of the times we don't get the full information. Sometimes they're still investigating it and they don't want an innocent person going to jail. But if that's why they use the terms like if I was a suspect, David Differman is a suspect in XYZ murders, but he is not until the judge hits the gavel. If there's enough evidence to convict me, the judge convicts me, and I was the person that did it. Until the judge hits that hammer, I'm still innocent. It's called opinion of social media, not media. Public opinion. It was a term in Spider-Man, No Way Home. Yeah, so I mean, but I knew the term for a long way. It's basically like I know I'm gonna get fucking bad comments, but this is the definition I'm trying to give to you guys. Like Justine Walters, the person that was connected with Jeffrey Epstein. If now she's been committed of the crimes and everything, so we can say that she was a piece of shit. Now, if she was a person that is a person of interest in these crimes and found out that she did not have anything to do with this stuff, she did not know anything was happening, and that's how things are. She's innocent, but some guy in Maryland still thinks that she's the officers didn't do their job. Well, that's a public opinion court. He goes on social media, rants, finds other like-minded people that believe that she is the cause of this horrible crime, which she was. Everybody was right, but it's one of those things that, or okay. The better one is O.J. Simpson. Everybody knows that he killed his wife, but the courts find him innocent. Everybody knows. I mean, he wrote a book, If I Did It. And oh my God, you got to read that book. It's fucking hilarious. But that's where the media and law enforcement go head to head, because they really can't divulge a lot of the evidence for the case because they're still coming up with. They could find like I said, they could find DNA underneath the person's nails, but found out that he was helping an orphanage the entire time. And they have video evidence. They have corroborative stories of alibis of him being at that place all day and night because he stayed overnight to help. Because one of the kids, the kid was so scared of, because his family was degenerates and beat the shit out of the kid. So the guy stayed with the kid to calm him down, and eventually he moved away from him. But they didn't get that in the people didn't find that out. Law found that out. That's the reason why they pushed him aside. It's like, hey, we have evidence that says he wasn't even in the same state. So, but because, like, I mean, right now with Trump, people are like, oh, there's certain people that are saying that he's guilty, and some people that are saying he's innocent. And looking at some of the data, he actually could be guilty of a couple of crimes. Could be, if they follow up with, and some of them they actually are following up. And you would have to look at that stuff. Just give me my opinion, because of the evidence that I looked up. My opinion is my opinion. I'm not forcing my opinion on other people. A lot of presidents do some really weird shit when they're in office, and they have a right idea. Everybody that's in any kind of authoritarian law type stuff, they have an opinion what they're doing is right, even though some of the times is wrong. Like forcing people to get a vaccine, it's wrong. Could it stopped everything? No, we fucking found out just recently that all the shit that we were saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't have fucking done. But we're just going off serial killers right now. I have another podcast to talk about that stuff, and we'll talk about that stuff in that podcast. Dates to come up. But they also could cause vigilantes to go out and try to. Back in Cowboys days, they needed vigilantes, but now they don't. But they actually could kill somebody new that was innocent by hyping up the killer to the point to where someone goes out and kills them. But yeah, that's pretty much it on that. Epilogue. We would once again like to recognize the individuals who it's in. Okay, yeah, that's the end of it. but it's going on. I wonder when they do these things. I actually want to attend one of these just out of curiosity. Just a deep dive to get more knowledge on serial killers. Wonder when do they have symposiums? Trying to look and see what we investigate terrorism. Yeah. They got an FBI. I understand they have a Twitter account. Well, what's this Dottie thing? Flickr. What the fuck is Flickr? What's IN? LinkedIn. Okay. They have a YouTube page. They have a YouTube page. They have a Facebook page. They got a Twitter. But but yeah, that's pretty much it on what the FBI thinks serial killers is. If you got any good information on this, out of this that I was talking about, if you want to deep dive more into it, just go in the comments, comment me, give you my opinion. That's all I'm gonna get. I'm gonna give you an opinion of how I would do things and everything like that. Should they be done? No, probably not. I have some really stupid ideas. Really stupid. But anyways, love you guys. Talk to you later. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.